Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopijana Balabha Girivara Dhari. Gopijana Balabha Girivara Dhari. Jasodanandana Brajajanarandana. Jasodanandana Brajajanarandana. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopijana Balabha Girivara Dhari. Bolo. Chant. Gopijana Balabha Girivara Dhari. Jasodanandana Brajajanarandana. Jasodanandana Brajajanarandana. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jayo Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parividakacharya Astatara Satusi Srimad His Divine Grace is the Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Gaur Premanandi. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We're continuing where we left off yesterday. This section has lots of commentary. So one verse is going to cover probably at least 2 or 3 days. and we'll be able to finish this verse most likely. This is 10:28:14, and what I'm going to be reading. So that this is do you have Bhagavatam here? The section is Mother Yashoda reflecting on, find the verse, 10:28:14, reflecting on what she had seen, and she became bewildered, wasn't clear, so then she offered her prayers to the personality of Godhead. Wait a minute. I'm in the wrong place. This is chapter 28, Nanda Maharaj. So, text 14 reads, thus, deeply considering the situation, the all-merciful Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, revealed to the cowherd man his abode, which is beyond material darkness. That's so. I was thinking the evening session. It's the morning. Morning is Krishna is going to show the resident of Vrindavan his eternal abode, Goloka. And we're going to hear some very interesting things about the comparison between Goloka and Gokula. Gokula indicating, it's by the chair, Gokula indicating where Krishna manifests his pastimes in this realm. The nomenclature goes like that. And Goloka is in the transcendental realm in the spiritual sky. In one sense, they're non-different, and then there's some differences. When we read Brihat Bhagavatamrita towards the end, Gopakumar is able to transition between the two, Goloka Gokula, Goloka Gokula, Goloka Gokula, and he states, I can't tell whether I'm here or there. So the abodes appear to be the same. We're going to hear several things. We're going to hear there's a sweetness about Krishna's pastimes in Gokula that isn't the same in Goloka. We'll hear some details rather than summarize it now. And we're going to hear some of the details of Goloka, because that's what they wanted to see. They wanted to specifically, they wanted to see the spiritual sky, or Brahman, and Vaikuntha, because their Nanda is a worshipper of Narayana, that's their family Ishtadev, and Narayana resides in Vaikuntha. So will he, our son, show us his abode? So he's going to show them. So we're going to hear some very interesting details about the spiritual world. Before visiting here about 2 weeks ago, I spent 3 or 4 evenings just reading descriptions of the kingdom of God from the 3rd canto, where the Kumaras go to the gates of Vaikuntha, and then we read from Brihat Bhagavatamrita, where Gopakumar enters the gates of Vaikuntha, and what he sees, what he experiences, and then he goes to Ayodhya, and then he enters Vrindavan. So what's the kingdom of God like? So we're going to hear some additional very interesting explanations of what the kingdom of God is like. And the first that we're going to read from is Jiva Goswami's commentary on Canto 10, Chapter 90, one verse, where Shukadeva Goswami is saying, by regularly hearing, chanting, and meditating on the beautiful topics of Mukunda, with ever-increasing sincerity, a mortal being will attain the divine kingdom of the Lord, where inviolable power of death holds no sway. For this purpose, many persons, including great kings, abandon their mundane homes and go to the forest. And his commentary, by hearing, one will attain his service. That is described. So Shukadev says, O king, anyone subject to death, by thinking of reciting or hearing the topics of Krishna, who mercifully frees one from all suffering, attains his abode. Those topics are the producer of all wealth, Srimat. One hears, and then in joy one sings them, and remembers them with great eagerness. The remembrance continually increases by the singing. By that method, the person attains Krishna's special abodes, such as Vrindavan, according to his desires. The abode is described. It cannot be attained by Brahma and others. It ends the force of time, which produces everyone's end. Paragraph. In Vaikuntha, there is no rajas or tamas, and no sattva mixed with rajas and tamas. There is no influence of time. There is no influence of Maya at all. That's the illusory Maya. What to speak of its products, such as material elements. In Vaikuntha, the inhabitants are fully dedicated to the Lord and are worshipable by the devas and the devotees. That's a quote from Canto 2, Chapter 9. That's Brahma's realization about Vaikuntha. Then the commentary cites this verse, text 14 of 28. Translation, thus deeply considering the situation, the all-merciful Supreme Lord revealed to the cowherd men his abode, which is beyond Prakriti. That's the main, beyond Prakriti. His abode has desirable beauty, even for persons blind to the highest object. What to speak of being attractive to persons desiring liberation, or the devotees who successively value his abode more and more. Even many persons who enjoy earth with its 7 islands, having the highest goal in mind, gave up all places of human habitation as tasteless and went to places without materialists, or to Mathura Mandala with the 12 forests and cities auspicious. Going there, they stayed there eternally, since Mathura Mandala is the place of the highest sadhana, or practice, and sadhya, or result. Confirming, Mahabharata Purana says, quote, In Mathura, there is no fear of sins, no fear of death, no miscarriages. Who would not take shelter of it? One who leaves Mathura and develops attraction for another place is a fool. Bewildered by my Maya, he wanders in samsara. And that's interesting. Matsya Varaha. Mahavaraha Purana. And then from Skanda Purana, O king, the area of Mathura has Vishnu's chakra situated above and has the shape of a lotus eternally. Again, Varaha Purana. Mathura is the best of all attainments and the highest knowledge amongst all types of knowledge. It is the dearest among all dear things and is the highest goal among all goals. And then Padma Purana. Oh, Mathura is most fortunate. It is greater than Vaikuntha. Interesting. Now we're going to go to another commentary, still on text 14. Krishna's returning to Vrindavan after killing Dantavakra is approved by Bhagavatam. After killing Kamsa, Krishna said, chapter 45, canto 10, "Now you should all return to Vraja, dear father. We shall come to see you, our dear relatives, who are suffering in separation from us, and as soon as we have given some happiness to your well-wishing friends." Then, commentary, at Kurukshetra, he said that he would come after killing Dantavakra. He had to show friendship with the Yadus by killing all their enemies. So, chapter 82 of Canto 10. My dear girlfriends, do you still remember me? It was for my relatives' sake that I stayed away so long, intent on destroying my enemies. Paragraph. After enjoying 2 months in prakat pastimes in Braja, that is, after killing Dantavakra, Krishna entered Braja for 2 months. Krishna, understanding that they were afflicted with fear that he would leave again, made sure that would not happen. How did he do that? The prakat pastimes were mixed with goals. Prakat pastimes, his appearance in this world, were mixed with goals like relieving the earth of its burden, which acted as an obstacle to associating with his dear devotees. So what did he do? He made the prakat pastimes one with his eternal aprakat pastimes, which cannot be detected by persons external to the pastimes, and which are completely devoid of the obstacles. The obstacles is having to kill demons, mentioned above. So during that period of time, the manifest pastimes entered into an unmanifest state. The manifest forms of the residents of Braja entered into the unmanifest state. Thus, the particular manifestation of Vrindavan contained aprakat pastimes. Does and did and still, it was just his transcendental arrangement so they wouldn't feel separation from him. He was with them in aprakat pastimes. This place called Gokula with the Lord was also manifest by the Lord, as in this chapter 28 that we're reading for text later, text 18. The cowherd saw Krishna being praised by the Vedas. So what's being said here is, while still in Gokula, the Manaprakat pastimes, Krishna very kindly arranged for the residents to see the Aprakat pastimes, Aprakat abode and pastimes, with them participating. So that is to say, his eternal abode Goloka is within Gokula. In another manifestation, Krishna returned to Dwarka. So that is, Krishna and all the residents of Braja entered the Aprakat stage, unmanifest stage, still engaging in pastimes but not manifest to the world. And in another manifestation, Krishna returned to Dwarka. He can expand himself unlimitedly. So one expansion went to Dwarka, and another, it's because he's unlimited, and joined with the residents of Braja in their unmanifest stage. High technology, huh? Here's a reference from Padma Purana, confirming all of what's above. Quote, all persons present in Braja, headed by Nanda, along with their wives and sons, cows, animals, and birds, attained spiritual forms by the mercy of Vasudeva. They mounted an airplane and went to the supreme Vaikuntha planet, that same planet that Krishna showed them in the lake. Now at the end, they go there. They enter that Aprakat place. Krishna, having given his supreme pure abode to the people of Gokula, entered Dwarka while being praised by devas in the sky. Paragraph. Harivansha also states the same. Nanda went with his son, Krishna. Yashoda and others, Dara, also went. Like Drona and Dara. You familiar with the Drona and Dara message? When Krishna made his appearance, Drona and Dara, their partial expansions entered into Krishna, so to Mother Jasoda and Nanda. When the pastimes were over, they returned to their demigod post. Their partial expansions returned. They didn't have a vacancy while the pastimes went on. It's not easy to understand, but that's what's explained consistently. So Yasoda and others, Dara, also went. Thus, Nanda went to Vaikuntha with Krishna, Yashoda, and others. It's another way of saying he manifest his prakat pastimes merged into the aprakat pastimes. It's another way of saying the same thing. In another manifestation, aprakat, they stayed in Gokula. Though they were not aware of this, by the mercy of Vasudeva, who had come there by his mercy, they had spiritual bodies. Divya Rupa Dhara, more remarkable than previously, since they were full of bliss. Quote, mounting an airplane, unquote, indicates that Goloka was situated above all other planets. Detail, next paragraph. It is stated that having killed Dantavakra, Krishna crossed the river Yamuna. What does this mean? This means that the people of Vraja at that time had been living on the northern bank of the Yamuna, not being able to quote, persons who seriously follow these methods of achieving me, which I have personally taught, attain peace, my abode, known as Brahman. Explanation. Those who follow my paths, the ways to obtaining me, through Gyan, Karma, and Bhakti, attain my abode. This means that Bhakti, in the beginning, sometimes takes a little assistance from Karma and Gyan. They attain my abode, which is auspicious for Bhakti. Kshemam. They know this place as the Supreme Brahman. What's said elsewhere is this particular, he crossed the Jamuna, indicates after coming back from Kurukshetra, the residents of Vrindavan were feeling too much anguish from separation from Krishna, so they couldn't stand to see the same places where Krishna had performed his pastimes, so they relocated. Temporarily. And after killing Dantavakra, that's where Krishna went, to that place where they had relocated. That's what's described. Here's another example. Quoting from this chapter, 28, text 14-15. Thus, deeply considering the situation, the all-merciful Supreme Lord revealed to the coward men his abode, which is beyond Prakriti. Next, text 15. Krishna revealed the place, which was existence, knowledge, infinity, eternity, and self-effulgent. Sages see that place in trance when their consciousness is freed from the modes of material nature. The emphasis again is Goloka, the place where Krishna showed them, is totally transcendental. It's not imagination. It's not so many other things. It's his eternal abode. And these are qualities of his eternal abode. So now next, there's two sections. Jiva Goswami has written commentary on Brahma Samhita, which Bhaktisiddhanta translated into English. Actually, there was another step. Jiva Goswami, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu found Brahma Samhita and distributed it. Said this is to be read. And Jiva Goswami made a commentary in Sanskrit. Bhaktivinoda took that commentary from Sanskrit and put it in Bengali. And Bhaktisiddhanta took the Bengali and Jiva Goswami Sanskrit and put it in English, in his very special vocabulary. So we have Bhaktisiddhanta's rendering, but it comes from Jiva Goswami, his commentary. And we're going to be reading from his commentary. Specifically, text 33. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is inaccessible to the Vedas, but obtainable by pure unalloyed devotion of the soul, who is one without a second, who is not subject to decay, is without a beginning, whose form is endless, who is the beginning and the eternal Purusha. Yet he has a person form possessing the beauty of blooming youth. In Jiva Goswami's commentary. It's to describe, again, Goloka, what Krishna decided to show to them. In 3 verses that begin here, the description of the Lord's extraordinary power and glory continues. The word Advaitam means that as a king has no rival, so the Supreme Personality of Godhead has no rival, Dvaita, anywhere in the world. Uddhava explains the same. Bhagavatam 3:2-12. The Lord's pastimes were wonderful for everyone. The meaning of the word Achyutam is given by Sri Akrura, Canto 10, Chapter 38. Quote, Indeed, today King Kamsa has shown me extreme mercy by sending me to see the lotus feet of Lord Hari, who has now appeared in this world. Simply by the effulgence of his toenails, many souls in the past have transcended the insurmountable darkness of material existence and achieved liberation. Those lotus feet are worshipped by Brahma, Shiva, and all the demigods, by the goddess of fortune, and also by the great sages and Vaishnavas. So this is Achyuta, infallible. Now there's another reference. Uddhava explains similarly. The goddess of fortune herself, along with Lord Brahma and all the other demigods who are masters of yogic perfection, can worship the lotus feet of Krishna only within their mind. But during the rasa dance, Lord Krishna placed his feet upon these gopis' breasts, and by embracing those feet, the gopis gave up all distress. He has very special feet. Shukadeva Goswami also explains these verses that we're studying, chapter 28. The all-merciful Supreme Personality of Godhead Hari revealed to the cowherd men his abode, which is beyond material darkness. Nanda Maharaj and the other cowherd men felt the greatest happiness when they saw that transcendental abode. They were especially amazed to see Krishna himself there, surrounded by the personified Vedas who are offering him prayers. And one more, this is still commentary from text 33. And he continues in the next citation. The word anadi. So he's going through Advaitam, Achyutam, Anadim. Anadi means, quote, free from the three phases of time, which consist of beginning, middle, and end. Anadi is an important word. It describes the living entity, and it also describes the conditioned state. One of the jiva fall question, because somebody, well-educated person yesterday was asking that question in 6 different ways. There are events within time, and there's events that are not within time. We can't even consider events that are not within time because we're only familiar with events within time. Like Krishna's pastimes are eternal. They're anadi. But they're pastimes. There's the sense of passage of time, but there's no passage of time. Time is absent. So what's an anadi event? The living entity coming into this world is one of those. So it's perplexing because people want to know, once upon a time we're in the spiritual world, some time passed, and then something happened. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that the question itself is misleading because it's not an event within time. So what's a timeless event? What's the cause? That's another big deal. What's the cause? If it's so nice there, why would you want to leave? because we only know events that have a material cause, and then there's a result of the cause. So what's the cause? And there's no material cause. It's misuse of free will. That's a timeless event that has no cause, other than living entities exercising their free will. As they exercise their free will this way, they can exercise their free will that way, and it's not a cause. It's just a living entity exercising free will. Not very satisfying to the material mind. Okay, so now continuing, we can say the verse together. This is text 33 again. Advaitam achutam anadim anantarupam adyam parana purusham navayovanam cha vedeshu durlabam adurlabam atma bhaktau govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. Translation: I worship the Supreme Lord Govinda, who has no equal, who is infallible in protecting his devotees, who is the source of all others, but expands into infinite forms, who is topmost, who exists before all others, but is eternally youthful, and who is rarely attained by those studying the Vedas, but attained easily by his devotee. And again, commentary, Jiva Goswami. This and the next two verses confirm the extraordinary powers of Govinda. It starts the same way. Advaita, Advaitam, means that Govinda has no equal in this world. In third canto, Uddhava speaks this Mapanam Svasyacha. His actions are amazing. Kashikanda explains the word Achyutam. Quote, he is called Achyuta, all-pervading, indestructible, and supreme in all worlds, because by his mercy his devotees do not fall from their positions, even at the time of destruction of the universe. Such great mercy is illustrated in the following verses, where Akrura says how Kamsa was very kind, sending him to go see Krishna. And the next verse, Akrura says, those lotus feet, Krishna's, are worshipped by Brahma, Shiva, and all the demigods, by the goddess of fortune, and also the great sages and Vaishnavas. Upon those lotus feet, the Lord walks about the forest while herding the cows with his companions, and those feet are smeared with the kumkum from the gopis' breasts. Uddhava says, the goddess of fortune herself, along with Brahma and all other demigods who are masters of yogic perfection, can worship the lotus feet of Krishna only within their mind. The gopis are different. Same reference. Okay, so now next, these celebrated verses at the end of Govinda prayers, Shriya Kanta Kanta Parama Purusha Kalpataravo. Jiva Goswami gives the translation, and then he goes through word for word. This is a description of Goloka, those two verses, 56, 57. Here's his translation. I worship that transcendental seat known as Sweta-dweep, where, as loving consorts, the Lakshmis, in their unalloyed spiritual essence, practice the amorous service of the Supreme Lord Krishna as their only lover, where every tree is a desire, transcendental purpose tree, where the soil is the purpose gem. All water is nectar. Every word is a song. Every gate is a dance. The flute is his favorite attendant. Effulgence is full of transcendental bliss. And the supreme spiritual entities are all enjoyable and tasty. Where numberless milk cows always emit transcendental oceans of milk, where there is external existence of transcendental time, eternal existence of transcendental time, who is present and without past or future, and hence is not subject to the quality of the passing away even for the space of half a moment. That realm is known as Goloka. Only to a very few self-realized souls in this world, Brahma's prayer and Jiva's commentary. So we're going to hear about Goloka. After having described the Supreme Personality of Godhead as the highest object of worship, in these two verses, the author describes the Lord's transcendental abode. Here, the word Shriyaha means, quote, the beautiful girls of Braja who are glorified in many mantras and meditations. Of these limitless gopis, there is but one lover, Kanta. In the way are revealed the glories of the Lord's personal associates, as well as the glories of Lord Krishna, who is more exalted than all other persons, including his own form as the Supreme Lord Narayana. Paragraph. The words Kalpa Taravo Dhrama refer to certain trees famous for granting all desires. The phrase Bhumis Chintamani Ganamayi means that the land there also grants all desires. If this is so, how much more must be the Kaustubha jewels and other jewels there in fulfilling all desires? The words Toyam Amritam means that the water there tastes like nectar. How sweet then must be the nectar there. The words Vangshi Priyasaki means the sound of Krishna's flute is supremely pleasing to the ear. Paragraph. What more need to be said? Everything there is spiritual and full of bliss, Chidanandam. The word Jyoti means splendid like the sun, moon, and other luminaries. In the Gautamiya Tantra, the land of Vrindavan is described in these words, quote, Vrindavan is glorious like a rising moon or a rising sun. Paragraph. Because it is like an eternally full moon, Goloka is always supremely splendid and glorious. The word asvadyam means, quote, tasty, because it is a manifestation of the Lord's spiritual potency. The spiritual nature of the Lord's abode is described in these words in Srimad Bhagavatam. That's our text 14. That is beyond material darkness, same. Next, the words Shravati Surabhibhya means that when they hear the sound of Lord Krishna's fruit, the Surabhi cows emit oceans of milk. The phrase Vrajati Nahi means that the residents of Goloka are not aware of time. This means that in Goloka, time has neither faults nor disadvantages. This is described in the following words of Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 9. That's that same section, Brahma's view of Vaikuntha. Nacha kala vikramaha. In the translation, in the personal abode of the Lord, there is no predominance of the influence of time. Then he explains Svetadweep, because that's mentioned in those two verses. The word Shveta means pure, and Dvipam means island. In Gopal Tapani Upanishad, it is said, quote, as a lotus flower stands in the water, so the land of Vrindavan stands on this earth. Now comes again further commentary on this text 56. It's from another part of his writing. I'll read it. That's nice. A little detail. These two verses, 56, 57, are not directly referred to, but spoken in Chaitanya Charitamrita. When after the Rath Yatra festival, Jagannath stays at Gundicha for some days. And a few days after Rath Yatra, there's a big all-day festival where Lakshmi leaves the temple in a big, big deal, and she's in a diamond-studded palanquin, and there's, musical instruments and opulence. And the Lord Chaitanya and his associates are watching the procession. And Srivas Pandit, seeing this procession, he's Narada Muni, he's a Vaikunthavasi, so he just starts jumping up and down and saying, just see the opulence of my goddess of fortune. He puts your Krishna to shame. What opulence can there be like this? And Lord Chaitanya turns to Swarup Damodar and says, Swarup Damodar, what do you have to say about that? So he being called upon, Swarup Damodar describes the opulence of the spiritual world, of Krishna's abode Goloka. And he doesn't refer to the verse, but he says everything like this. For every walk is a dance, and every word, and all the trees are desire trees, and all the land is Chintamani Sham's wish fulfilling. And he goes on and on describing what's there. The cows give oceans of milk. Everything there is fully conscious. So he goes on describing what this verse is describing. And Srivas Pandit is very happy. It says he slaps his armpit and makes a big sound. He's enjoying being defeated, the glory of Goloka. I worship this Goloka, Brahma writes, where there are unlimited gopis and their beloved Krishna, the supreme form of God, where the trees and land fulfill all desires, where the water is as sweet as nectar, where the speaking is singing and the walking is dancing, where the flute is the best friend by announcing the joyful presence of Krishna everywhere, where the sun and moon shine with knowledge and bliss, eternally in perfect form, revealing all things, and where all relishable things are also. knowledge and bliss. I worship Goloka, pure and uncontaminated, where extensive oceans of milk flow from the cows, where not even a moment of time passes, and which only a few rare devotees wandering on this earth have realized. Commentary. Brahma has praised the Lord with verses, showing how Govinda is most worthy of worship. Now in 2 verses, he praises the planet belonging to him. Shriya can only refer to the young women of Braja, not Lakshmi, since the gopis are well known in mantras and methods of meditation. Though these women are unlimited in number, Kanta, there is only one male lover, Kanta. By this, the superiority of Govinda over exalted Narayana and other forms, Paramapurusha, is shown. Next, the superiority of Govinda's abode over other abodes is shown. All the trees are celebrated as desire trees, Kalpa Taravo Druma, because every single tree can bestow every possible desire. The earth, Bhumi, is similar, Chintamani, Ganamayi. Of course, if the earth fulfills all desires, what can be said of things like the Kaustubha jewel, since jewels are the essence of the earth? The water is tasty like nectar. What then can be said of the taste of real nectar available there? Similarly, if the speaking is attractive like singing, how much more attractive will be the songs? And if the walking is graceful like dancing, how much more charming will be the dancing there? The flute is considered the dearest friend because its pervasive sound announces his condition of joy to all people. Paragraph. The luminaries, like the sun and moon, are made of knowledge and bliss, Chidanandam Jyoti. In the 2nd chapter of Gautamiya Tantra, in the description of Vrindavan, it is said, quote, the sun and moon are similar in brightness when they rise. Thus, the light is called supreme, Param, because the moon in Goloka is eternally a full moon. We heard this. That's Jiva Goswami is confirming. Eternally, full moon. This light reveals everything. All the pleasurable asvadyam items are also full of knowledge and bliss, since they are made of Chit Shakti, of the Lord. The Chit nature of the place is described in the Bhagavatam, our verse today, beyond the modes of darkness. Hayashirsha Pancharatna describes the nature of things in Vaikuntha. Quote, hereabout, so we're getting a panorama of Vaikuntha. Hear about the substance of the spiritual realm. I will speak about Brahman in summary. There are trees, which are desire trees yielding all enjoyment. There the flowers and other items are all filled with fragrance and taste. The place is bliss itself, because there are no inferior sections. Fruits with skins, seeds, and hard parts belong to the material world, meaning no skins, no seeds, no hard parts in the spiritual world. Understand that there is no material substance there. All objects are filled with bliss. Oceans of milk flow from the cows because the cows are absorbed in hearing the sound of Govinda's flute. The inhabitants of Goloka do not know time at all. because they are absorbed in Govinda. Samaya na vrajati. Time does not proceed for even half a second. The faults of time do not exist there. Second Canto Bhagavatam says, quote, this is this 2:9-10 verse again. In that personal abode of the Lord, the material modes of ignorance and passion do not prevail, nor is there any of their influence in goodness. There is no predominance of the influence of time, so what to speak of the illusory external energy. It cannot enter that region. Without discrimination, both the demigods and demons worship the Lord as devotees. Okay. This particular place is known to some, Katipaye, on this earth, but very few. Kshiti Virala Chara. Now, probably should end there, but we'll read Rupa Goswami, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. He is describing Vaidhi Bhakti can take you to this place. A person who serves on the path of Vaidhi Bhakti with the desire for conjugal relationship with the Lord and the highest position, but without desire for the gopis' type of love, after some time becomes a queen in Dwarka. That's Rupa Goswami, and here's Jiva Goswami's commentary, followed by Vishwanath's commentary. How are we doing? It's okay? It's too much? Should I stop? Here we go. Jiva Goswami's commentary. Yaha is in the masculine but indicates any person, either man or woman. This person serves according to the path of Vaidhi with the desire for an amorous relation, or Riram Sham, with Krishna, but not with the quality of the gopis' love. The word sushtu, or excellent, indicates that the desire is tinged with the bhava like that of a queen of Dwarka rather than with the conjugal bhava of a maidservant. Serving according to Vaidhi Bhakti, though using mantras for meditating on the love of the gopis, and of course using mantras and procedures for meditating on the love of the queens of Dwarka, they will achieve the bhava of the queens rather than the gopis. Kevalena means they execute this service without having desires for a relationship in Braja. Thus, when they perform service in Vaidhi Bhakti, desiring a conjugal relationship with like the queens, sushtu, but without the desire for a relationship like that of the gopis, kevalena, they attain the status of a follower of the queens in Dwarka. This is because of the great respect they have for the queens of Dwarka. In the Avarana Puja, or secondary worship after worshipping Krishna, using the 10-syllable mantra, they attain this status sometime in the future, after some delay, but not as quickly as in Raganuga Bhakti. Very high-level description. Vishwanath writes, though the sentence is in masculine gender, it refers to people in general, either men or women. Even though a person develops a strong desire for conjugal relationship with Krishna, if that person thinks that giving up all the rules of the scripture is improper and unfavorable for nourishing his sentiments, then he will attain the position of being an associate of the queens in Dwarka. Kevalena Eva indicates completely, or that much. Thus, he completely follows the rules of Vaidhi Bhakti without rejecting any portions, such as meditating on Dwarka and worship of the queens as being unfavorable for his bhava. That is significant, is signified by the word eva, or exactly. The dictionary definition of kevalam has the sense of fixing or ascertaining. Thus, the meaning of he serves according to Vaidhi Bhakti as ascertained by rules exactly, not rejecting anything. Again, it's the same high level. I'll read. Very esoteric. Those who have a desire to taste the sweetness of Radha and Krishna in Vrindavan, but worship according to Vaidhi Bhakti, using nyasas and mudras, do not attain Krishna in Dwarka with Rukmini because they do not have that aspiration, nor can they attain Radha and Krishna in Vrindavan because they lack the worship on the path of Raga. Therefore, since they have a predominance of awareness of Krishna as the Lord, or Aishvarya Gyan, in worship according to the path of rules, Vidhi, they attain Radha and Krishna in a portion of Vrindavan called Goloka. In correspondence to that worship, it is understood that they do not attain the Vrindavan of pure sweetness. Sri Rupa Goswami has praised this Goloka as a portion of Vrindavan in his Stavamala. Here's the quote, Stavamala, glorifications, Stavas, by Rupa. Translation: after thoroughly showing Vaikuntha to his friends and relatives, with ease he brought them back to Vrindavan, since that place did not have pleasant inhabitants or a Vrindavan. May Mukunda protect you. In the explanation, the word Vaikuntha in this verse means Krishna-Vaikuntha-Goloka, the place where Krishna resides with majesty. In the 10th canto, it is described how Krishna took all the cowherd men to Goloka, a Vaikuntha, or place of majesty belonging to Krishna, in order to illustrate the special sweetness of Vrindavan to them. And then quotes the verse that we were studying. Thus, deeply considering the situation, the all-merciful Supreme Personality of Godhead Hari revealed to the cowherd men his own abode, which is beyond material darkness. Then, 2 verses later, text 16. The cowherd men were brought by Lord Krishna to the Brahmarada lake, where Akrura had gone prior to this Bhagavatam narration, and were submerged in the water and then lifted up. The cowherd men then saw the abode of the Lord. In text 17, Nanda Maharaj and the other cowherd men felt the greatest happiness when they saw that transcendental abode. They were especially amazed to see Krishna himself there, surrounded by the personified Vedas who were offering him prayers. Now he goes back and gives some commentary. Brahmano Lokam, or the planet of Brahman, described in text 16, is Goloka, the planet of Krishna, who is the Supreme Brahman in human form. It is not the Vaikuntha planet with Lakshmi. The Bhagavatam verse, this text 14, says, Krishna showed them Svam Lokam, that's his own planet. Krishna does not have a planet of Vaikuntha with Lakshmi. And then verse 17 describes Krishna being praised by the Vedas. It is impossible that there would be pastimes of Krishna in Lakshmi's Vaikuntha. Thus, Brahmano Lokam refers to the planet of Krishna, not Vishnu, called Goloka, with majesty. We're getting really refined here. This is explained in Vaishnava Toshini, that's Jiva Goswami's commentary, Bhagavatam, and in Laghu Bhagavatamrita, Rupa Goswami's text, translated as, what is called Goloka is Gokula with a majestic aspect, or Aishvarya Goloka. Also, in Laghu Bhagavatamrita, it is said, quote, Gokula's form of majesty, that's Goloka, arises from it, showing greater powers. We're almost done. Though it is a divergence from the topic, the meaning is this. What is called Goloka, Yad Goloka Nama, is but the majesty of Gokula. Gokula Vaibhavam. Gokula is known for its superior sweetness. Goloka is a portion of Gokula, which displays majesty. Thus, Tad Atma Vaibhavatam, Vaibhavatvam, means Goloka's majestic aspect. Gokula's majestic aspect. Goloka is but the majestic aspect of Gokula, because Gokula displays a superior position. And he confirms this from Padma Purana in the Patala Kanda, which says, auspicious Gokula, O Madhupuri, is superior to Goloka, Vaikuntat. By staying there for only one day, devotion to the Lord arises. Of course, it's not just going to the geographic, buy a ticket and go there place. The word Vaikuntad in this verse means, quote, more than majestic Goloka, because it is quoted by Rupa Goswami in Laghu Bhagavatamrita to illustrate the greater position of Gokula in comparison to Goloka. Final, last sentence. In the text, the word tada, then, indicates at some time, even with some delay, not quickly, as the attainment through Raganuga Bhakti. End. So we're getting very refined. We're not used to hearing these kinds of details. Very refined explanation of what Krishna showed. I mean, before reading these things, when I came to know this pastime, it wasn't so clear. They're resident. What's easy to understand, in one sense, easy, is they were thinking of themselves as ordinary souls wandering in the sojourn of birth and death, and they had love for Krishna. They came to understand Krishna's position as the supreme, at least momentarily. And they wanted to see the spiritual world. Now, they're in the spiritual world. But they weren't, because of sweetness, they weren't seeing it. They wanted to see it. And so within that place of sweetness is this majestic realm. And so, is there sweetness in Gokula that's not there in Goloka? It sounds like it. Sounds like it. But it's not like separate. You take there's a bucket over here and there's a bucket over there. It's not that kind of thing. It's within the sweetness of Gokula is the Goloka. So there's pastimes in Goloka. They're eternal pastimes, but there's some things in Gokula, what Bhaktivinoda Thakur calls the Naimitika pastimes. There's the Nitya Leela, the eternal pastimes, and they're the same. They're the same. But then there's something very, very special about the occasional pastimes. There's a sweetness. So exactly which pastimes are certainly the killing of the demons and birth pastimes and things like that. There's a sweetness. Those killing of the demons doesn't occur in Goloka. The potency of Krishna is in both places. There's no lifting of Govardhan Hill because there's no Indra. Then and Krishna stopping the Indra Yagya. So there's a sweetness aspect. The kidnapping of Nanda Maharaj. There's some obvious things that in Gokula that are not in Goloka, but it's not two buckets. And the majestic aspect of Goloka is not the same as Vaikuntha, where Lakshmi and Narayan, because there's rasas of intimacy and so forth and so on, and there's no Krishna herding cows in Vaikuntha. There's no goddess of fortune massaging Krishna's feet. It's not the same. The majesty has a different connotation that is being described. So they wanted to see, and Krishna was happy to have them see. And as we heard going back towards the beginning of this whole section, as soon as it happened, by the agency of Yogamaya, they forgot everything. Something like the evening we're reading when Mother Yasoda is looking inside Krishna's mouth and sees what she sees, her motherly affection just kicks in and she forgets. Whatever it is, I don't understand it, and he's my son. And then she's speaking in this mood of momentary detachment. I'm not the mother, I'm not the wife, I'm not the queen, I have no possessions. So, that renunciation, detachment thing, that's momentary. And then the sweetness overwhelms all that. So that there's this, using this same terminology, there's this Goloka, but majesty feature within Gokula. But Gokula it's the sweetness all the way, inside and out. It's pretty high science, high technology. And one can move, by Krishna's arrangement, one can move seamlessly back and forth between one and the other. Acharyas describe, Krishna didn't have to take them to this lake. He could have done whatever he wanted to do without taking them to a lake and immersing them and lifting them out and then showing. Rather, Krishna wanted to lend importance to the place. So when we go to Vrindavan, we like to go to that place. Of course, the path that the river Jamuna flowed at that time, and where the river Jamuna flows today are not the same. But that's okay. The place is eternally manifest wherever the river Jamuna today flows or doesn't flow. It's a transcendental, it's an uppercut pastime. And Krishna wanted to honor that place. So he did. And he wanted the residents of Vrindavan to have their desire fulfilled. So he did. And he did it in this interesting way. So, but that's the Leela part, and we're getting from our acharyas this very profound, very precise, very analytical description of what it was that they were shown. And the superior position that they don't recognize that they're in, and that's the Gokula pastimes and the Gokula place and the Gokula Krishna. Pretty amazing. So let's see if there's some discussion. Anyone here? Okay, go to online if there's something.
There are 2 questions.
Okay.
Please enlighten us in Bhagavatam 3:15. We hear Kingdom of Lord as Vaikuntha and its offerings. Why not Goloka? Where can we hear or read Goloka offerings?
We have been hearing. That's what we've been doing. Just keep your seatbelt fastened, and we'll keep going. We're not done with this one verse. This is the opulence. This whole Shya Kanta Kalpataravo. That's Goloka. That's the opulence of Goloka.
The next question. Did the Brajvasis see themselves in Goloka like now?
Did they see what?
Brajvasis?
Yeah, did they see what?
Did the Brajvasis see themselves in Goloka?
Themselves, that's the word, okay.
Themselves in Goloka, like Mother Yashoda saw herself inside Krishna's universal form.
Yeah. Yes. What it specifically says, they didn't see all the other inhabitants, but they saw themselves. Now, why they didn't see the other inhabitants isn't explained, at least I haven't seen it. But yes, they saw themselves in Krishna in that Goloka. Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.